Everyone, welcome back, and thank you so much for joining me for another video. What I wanted to do today was look at one of my favorite young quarterbacks in the league, probably before he breaks out. I wanted to take a look at Trey Lance and answer the question, what can we expect from him in 2022? Now, before we get into all of that, if it's your first time visiting the channel, thank you so much for being here today. I would really greatly appreciate a like and subscribe. The support that I get from you guys means the world to me, and it helps me out so very much. To all of my current subscribers out there, thank you, thank you, thank you. I could not do this without you guys. With that done and out of the way, let's get into this version of Hot Off the Press. I'm going to be doing a quick overview of what Lance did in college before breaking down what we've seen from him so far in the NFL level. We will then talk about his strengths, his weaknesses, what he needs to work on to get better, to answer our question. Trey Lance's existence in the NFL thus far has been rather quiet. After coming in as the number 3 overall pick in the 2021 NFL draft, many people thought that he had a chance at winning the job outright to start last season. I certainly was among them. And considering what the 49ers gave up to acquire Lance, they obviously thought so too. At worst, it was expected that Lance would be taking over probably midway through the season after he had some time to adapt to the NFL game. That did not turn out to be the case. Lance just had a pair of starts filling in for an injured Jimmy Garoppolo, and we really saw varying success in both of those appearances. While it is still unknown at this time if Lance is going to be the starter for San Francisco in 2022, it is widely assumed that the role is going to be transferred over to him in the upcoming season. I see no way that Jimmy G starts another game unless Lance would get injured, and he still remains on the roster, and that probably isn't likely either. When we consider the inadequacy that was displayed by Jimmy G, especially in the 2021 playoffs, it is clear that Lance is the option that not only gives the 49ers the best chance of winning right now, but it also raises the ceiling of this team overall. Today, we are going to deep dive why I believe that to be the case and what we can expect from the young signal caller in the upcoming season should the starting role be his. Let's start by looking at what we saw from Lance in college at North Dakota State, where he absolutely dominated. I am not really going to be looking at his numbers a whole lot because the FCS level is far below the competition that he's going to face on Sundays. However, there are some things that we can take away from his time at that level, which I believe are important in projecting what he's going to do this season. Trey was a starter for just a single full season in college. With that fact in mind, it makes a lot of sense that San Fran has taken his development slowly and has delayed handing him the reins. In that year, Lance threw for 28 touchdowns, and he did not throw a single interception while compiling nearly 4,000 yards. These are a few of the reasons that he was considered so raw coming out of college, but also why I think that his ceiling is viewed as so high. We just have not seen a lot from him. While racking up those kind of numbers is really important, what's behind them is even more vital. The absence of even a single pick displays decision-making from Lance with very little experience to draw from. Of course, the level of competition makes it easier, but even a few lapses in judgment or a wrong read can still occur and cause errors and turnovers. But for Trey Lance, that was not the case. Trey Lance was also undefeated in his time as a starter, which is an impressive feat no matter where you're playing or who you're playing against. One of his best games in college was against James Madison, and that was in the 2020 FCS National Championship game. He rushed for 166 yards there. This kid is a winner, and he rises to the occasion in big moments. These are qualities that you cannot coach, and they are going to serve him well in a Niners uniform. Lance's 2020 season was basically lost due to the COVID pandemic. He appeared in just a single game during that year. So this leaves us really with just that 2019 season to pull information from. With his college career overviewed, let's examine what we have seen from Lance so far in the NFL. Now, this is a minuscule sample size, to be fair, but we work with what we have. He appeared in 6 games, but there was really only 3 of them in which he actually played meaningful snaps, and so those are the ones that I'm going to be looking at for statistical purposes. Of note is that his first legitimate appearance came in week 4 against Seattle, where he played the second half after Jimmy Garoppolo got injured. His first start was the next week against Arizona, who at the time had one of the best defenses in the entire league, and his final game came in week 17 against Houston. So really, this is just a 2.5 game sample size, and the majority of it came early on in the year. What then can we actually pull from it? I think a few things stand out to me. First and foremost, Lance has yet to learn many of the intricacies of the NFL passing game. When we look at him being under 60% for those 3 games, he clearly has some work to do in that regard. I think that there is legitimacy to those concerns. But with that being said, this was widely expected, especially because most of his work came, like I said, early on in the year. Vast improvement was shown by the time that Texans game came around, and Lance completed nearly 70% of his passes there. He threw for 249 yards and a pair of scores. Very, very good to see that type of leap forward. And it shows, I think, with more time to learn the system, San Francisco began to loosen the leash a little bit. You love to see that growth, even if it was against one of the poorer defensive units in the league. Another thing that stands out is the adjustment to how Lance was utilized as the year wore on and his comfortability in that offense grew. After rushing 23 times in weeks 4 and 5 combined, Trey Lance was asked to just tote the rock 8 times in week 17. So early on, it can be assumed that his knowledge of the playbook was small and that his options to run the offense successfully was limited. It makes sense then that the 49ers utilized his strengths and ability in the ground game while other parts of his game were still under development. One of the things that made Lance such an intriguing and coveted prospect was the combination of his physical tools and his perceived raw potential. At 6'4" and 224 pounds, he is just an inch shorter and 13 pounds lighter than Josh Allen, who also happened to be his NFL comparison, which is pretty good company, wouldn't you say? That size and his strength are not going anywhere, and to lean on it early after the immense success that we saw at the FCS level adds up. Taking down a man of that size is no small feat. Now, coming out of college, Lance was lauded for his high football IQ and work in the film room. He is a true junkie when it comes to breaking down the game. He was already tasked with making his own calls and setting up his own protections at North Dakota State, so that part of the game is not foreign to him by any means. He showed an ability to go through progressions all the way to his 4th read and is excellent with play fakes too, setting up a defense. With a full offseason to work on his passing game prowess and under the tutelage of Kyle Shanahan, I expect a transformation. We already saw glimpses of it to end last year. Shanahan is also known for putting his players in the best positions to succeed, and that is exactly what Lance needs. He doesn't have the massive arm strength that is going to strike fear into defenders, but with better mechanics from his lower body, the velocity is going to improve, and it should be more than sufficient. The 49ers offense is contingent on setting up the passing game by establishing the run and then making the defense pay with play action. This is perfect for what Trey Lance already brings to the table. And with a system designed for him and around him, the sky is the limit. To be a threat as a runner while still possessing the ability to push the ball downfield is something that was sorely lacking in San Francisco's game last year, and that was when the team made it all the way to the NFC Championship game. If you add in this massive wrinkle, it is only going to make the team all that more dangerous on the offensive side of the ball. Lance is also blessed with two of the game's best playmakers at their respective positions. George Kittle is an elite safety blanket with big play potential. He is a massive problem for defenses to have to deal with. In the slot, out wide, or in the backfield, there is no better Swiss Army knife than Deebo Samuel. Every single time he touches the ball, it is a touchdown waiting to happen. Lance threw 2 second-half touchdowns to Deebo in that Week 4 matchup against Seattle as well, so the rapport that they have already built seems solid. Having these two at Lance's disposal and being able to lean on them for yard after the catch ability makes the transition for him that much smoother. When we also consider that Elijah Mitchell brings a ton of skill in the backfield, all of a sudden it is not just the 49er defense that teams are going to need to worry about. Mitchell averaged 100 yards of total offense per game in the 11 that he played as a rookie. Now, speaking of that defense, it will also make Lance's life easier by taking the pressure off of him. It is unlikely that Trey is going to be in many shootouts in 2022, and he can focus on taking the plays that are there and not forcing the issue. That, in and of itself, is incredibly valuable and should lower the chances of Lance making mistakes which potentially become turnovers. San Francisco ran the ball more than all but 3 teams in 2021, and that may change in 2022, but probably not by all that much. This also plays to Lance's advantage as it gives him more of an opportunity to settle into the starter role while not being expected to sling it all over the field. The 49ers have built a complete unit around Lance, which will enable him to do what he does best and mitigate his current deficiencies. So what will Trey Lance be in 2022? I think there are going to be bumps in the road, and Lance is going to likely throw a few more picks than San Francisco would like, but he is set up for success more than most quarterbacks in the league. This is going to enable him to make up for some mistakes and punish a defense with his dual threat ability. As he puts immense pressure on the defense, big plays are going to open up. I anticipate that he's going to threaten for 4,500 yards of total offense, and I think 35 touchdowns is well within his range of outcomes. With an already elite ability in the ground game, a growing knowledge of the passing game, and the God-gifted physical tools at his disposal, Lance is going to thrive in 2022. That is all I have for you guys in this video. Short, sweet, and to the point. I really hope you enjoyed the content today, and I hope you learned something. If it is your first time visiting, I would love to see you back here. I do videos Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Every single week, we're dropping them at noon Pacific. If you have suggestions for any videos or content that you were hoping for, drop that down below. I would love to hear from you. If you disagree with my takes about Trey Lance, I want to hear about that too. Or if you think that I hit the nail on the head, which is rare, I want to hear about that. A like and subscribe is always so appreciated. This is Relentless Press. I'm your host, Abraham Opatz, and we will see you next time.